hello there, and welcome to this game review. So, again, we have some problems with capturing pieces, right? And this would have helped you win the game rather easily, though you did win eventually anyway. So, in the opening, the development went extremely well. So, e5, it makes sense. This is now kind of the reversed Sicilian, but black is one tempo down since white started the game. But all of this is fine. e5 puts a pawn in the center. It cannot be a bad move. So d4, but this is a bad move. After taking here, now white's queen is developed to the center, and it has been developed a bit too early. And as usual, black can use the opponent's early developed queen to fasten their own development, and knight c6 happens, and the queen goes back, and knight f6. So now, what happened in the first four moves? At the end of this, black has two developed pieces. There's no real center here, but black could play d5 if he wanted to, and white's central pawn has been eliminated, and white has no development. So white played the opening badly, black played quite well. Knight c3, bishop b4, developing another piece, knight f3 castles. So this is perfect by black, and of course black already has an advantage here because of his big development lead. Next, he can hope to open up the center with the move d5, or maybe put the rook on e8. So bishop g5, and here h6 was played, which is a natural move, asking the bishop what it's doing. And here white should either move the bishop to keep the pin, or to take here and exchange the bishop for knight. This would be great for black, because now the queen is also developed. And next we can probably try to double the pawns on the c file. But after h6, white plays a3, but this is a big calculation mistake. So now if black takes the bishop, white would take the bishop here, which would be okay for white. But black has the intermediate move, the capture with check, bishop takes c3, which happens in the game. White has to recapture, and now the bishop is just hanging. So you had forgotten that you had just attacked the bishop. And as usual, on every single move, we look for checks, captures, and attacks. So it was quite unfortunate, but I think you will never forget this again. The move h6 attacks the bishop. So instead d6, which positionally is of course a move that is desirable, definitely we should make this move at some point, but there is nothing more important than king safety and material, and here we are winning a bishop for a pawn. Not to mention we still have all the advantages of development. Next we can play d6, develop the bishop, and we should be able to win because we have a piece up. So instead d6, and yeah, as you mentioned, you forgot to take the bishop the whole time. The positional aspects of chess are great here, as you're developing all the pieces. You have targets here, which you are now going to take, though of course taking the free piece would have won the game instantly, and nothing else would have mattered too much. So okay, bishop f4, now we took the pawn, so now we have a pawn advantage. We also have this weak king for white. Bishop g4 is played. This doesn't win the queen because f3, but still f3, this has now weakened the opponent's king. So this was a good idea to play, just to weaken the opponent's king. Now bishop h5, and white plays the move g4, which makes sense to attack the bishop, and you played bishop g6 very quickly. And this is again the problem I told you before. Don't make moves in less than 9 seconds, and this is precisely why. What should black play here? You can pause the video if you'd like, but black has quite a simple tactic. And it's only simple when you look at it, right? But if we don't have the chance to think about it, we can never find it. Of course, if our goal is to move the bishop, then we only have one square, but our goal should be bigger. And here, knight takes g4 is a winning tactic, taking a free pawn. And if white recaptures after this, now there is no one to stop this skewer. So we are going to win the queen. So this was a big missed opportunity. Instead bishop g6. And still black is of course doing great because he has a pawn, he has the safer king, and he has the better development. So this should be enough to win. After h4 we win another pawn, so now materially we are definitely having enough to win the game. But now we have to finish the development, not allow the opponent to get any counterplay, and the game should be win. So king f2, and here h5 was played, which is a bit of a strange move. It does try to attack the king, but at the same time we are kind of loosening our own king. But okay, for now it's fine. G5, knight d5. So all the pieces are getting into play. I would just love to see rook a to e8 as well. So queen c1 is played, and here black decides to play queen b5. So at this point we need to make a practical decision, right? The opponent is offering a queen trade. Should we trade or not? So there are a couple of factors to consider. Firstly, we are down in time, right? We have 5 minutes against 10 at this point. Next, we are up material. We have 2 pawns up. So any endgame should be a technical win. So I would suggest trading pieces, and the general advice is to trade pieces once we have more material. So exchanging queens, even though you might think, yeah, the king is weaker, we might attack, that is kind of true. But at this point, the attack is not entirely obvious, and it's quite a lot easier to trade queens, probably. For example, after this, the engine will not approve, but this is the more practical decision. Next, c6, d5 to protect the pawns. This is weak, we will play rook a8. And we have this huge pawn majority on the queen side. Eventually, they will become queens. So instead, queen b5. So this is also fine, but with less time, we shouldn't complicate matters too much. Now rook d1. Now you took. And here we see a problem. Rook takes f4. Another move made in less than 10 seconds. And the rook is blundered, as you forgot to check the opponent's checks, captures, and attacks. Of course, if the pawn wasn't defended, then this would be great. As we have now 3 pawns, we can develop the last rook, and we will kill the opponent's king. But unfortunately, the rook is hanging, and now white is winning. So see how it's always down to 1 move. Now, even though he has a weak king, this doesn't matter because he has a rook. So rook f8. So still you manage to somehow win by surviving until a moment to trick the opponent. So rook a2, and here you use the opponent's weak king to attack. Even though you had less pieces, this worked out because the opponent's pieces are not really defending. And here he should play king g1, after which black has a strong attack with rook f4 and queen g4. But he played king e1, after which you won the rook on b1. And once we win back the rook, we have a million pawns, so this should be winning. Not to mention white's king is terribly weak. So you also won another rook, and the queen is also hanging. So it would have been quite a great game if not for the rook blunder. But apart from that, you did everything quite well, and very well. Here knight takes g4 was a missed opportunity. This is not a 1-move capture, this is a tactic, considering we have to sacrifice a knight for the moment. But then we are winning a queen if we calculate firm. So hopefully this was useful. You did quite well in the opening, so the opening principles are quite and truly abided by. But of course, capturing the pieces is what decides the results, and this is what we should think about. So in your next games, again, look for checks, captures, and attacks on every move, and just practice this thought process, and eventually the results will come. So see you next time, and good luck.